Hello there, and welcome. Welcome to this space. Welcome to a place created for one simple purpose: to give you a moment of rest. This channel is an invitation to pause, to soften, to gently step away from everything that usually asks something of you. Here, you do not need to perform. You do not need to decide. You do not need to solve anything. This story, this journey, is an invitation to let go, to lean back for a moment, to allow yourself to return to the present, to meet this moment exactly as it is. Quiet, open, and safe. If, lately, your thoughts have been moving in circles, if your mind has felt busy or restless, if it has been difficult to fully arrive in the here and now, this space is for you. Find a place where you feel comfortable, perhaps a bed, perhaps a chair, perhaps simply a position where your body can begin to soften. You do not need to prepare anything. You do not need to achieve anything. Allow your shoulders to relax. Let your breath slow down, gently, naturally. This story will accompany you like a calm presence beside you. It will guide you without effort into a state of ease, into a feeling of quiet safety, into a space where rest becomes possible again. Before we begin, one small thought to carry with you. In these stories, a quiet presence returns again and again. A mysterious cube, gentle and powerful, able to open doors to places we did not know we were longing for. If you feel curious about where it comes from, about how it first found us, then the story of the Orient Express is waiting for you. That is where the journey with the cube truly begins. All you need to do is listen. Let the words pass through you. Let the images unfold on their own. Feel how tension slowly dissolves, how your body becomes heavier, how your thoughts begin to quiet. This journey is for you, for your rest, for your sleep, for your heart. And when you are ready, we can begin. We are sitting in our room, and the evening has long since settled. Not that abrupt falling into darkness, that sudden switch, but that slow sinking of the day, when the sounds outside grow quieter, the edges soften, and even time loses a little of its sharpness. The light is dimmed. Only a single warm source remains on, not to brighten the room, but to give it depth. In our hands, there is a book. It arrived this morning with the post. A plain parcel, no sender, no explanation. So unremarkable, It might have disappeared between bills and flyers. And yet, from the very beginning, there was this quiet knowing that it could not be ordinary. Something in its weight, in the way it could be carried, made us slow down without trying. We opened it, and there it was. A book, firmly bound, with a cover that does not feel new, but familiar, as if it has had time to grow accustomed to hands. The pages do not smell like a printing house. They smell like paper that has lived, like calm years settling into fibers. Our grandfather's name is on it, not added later, not like a dedication written after the fact, but as if it was born with the book itself, as if this name belonged to these pages from the very beginning, as if this work could never have existed without him. We closed the book again, not from disinterest, from respect, because we could feel it. You do not read something like this in haste, not between noises, not between messages. Some things ask for their own moment, an evening that intends nothing else. And that evening is now. Our phone lies out of reach, not like a punishment, not like a pose, more like a jacket you take off when you come home. It feels good to be unreachable for once, not informed, not pushed, only here, only this room, only this book. We breathe, and even this simple coming and going of air puts something in order inside us, as if the body remembers that it does not have to function constantly to truly be here. We open the book. The pages rustle softly, and that rustling is soothing because it is real. No sound from a device, no endless loop, just paper moving because we touch it. Not a diary in the narrow sense, not a loose notebook, not a jumble of thoughts, but a work written with calm, and clearly meant to be read with calm. We turn the pages, and there they are. The stories, the bedtime stories of our childhood, not as a voice in the dark, not as a warm hand on the blanket, but written down, carefully, as if our grandfather wanted to save them from being forgotten. Headlines feel like doors. Some we recognize at once. Others are unfamiliar, and yet so close, as if we once dreamed them. Between two pages, there is a marker, a ribbon, slightly frayed, but placed exactly where it should be. Not accidental, not lost, more like a silent sign. We open the page where it rests, and there, calm and unadorned, the title stands. Atlantis. A word that sounds like myth, and yet written as if it were a place one can truly visit. We read slowly, not because we force ourselves to slow down, but because the sentences make us slower. This is not a once upon a time, not a horror story, not an adventure that wants noise. more a travel report, a map made of words, one that does not push, only invites. Our grandfather writes of a city under the water, hidden, unfindable to those who know only the surface. He describes domes made of a material clear as glass, and yet not hard to the eye. He describes paths not built against the sea, but with it. He describes light that does not flicker, does not burn, but feels like a quiet property of things themselves. The further we read, the quieter we become. Not rigid, not numb, gathered, as if an inner noise, the one we think is normal, steps back for a moment. And while we read a passage about the rooms of sleep, about the kind of rest that allows Atlantis to grow so old, we suddenly feel, in our other hand, a weight. A small weight, familiar. The cube. It is simply there, as if this book called it, as if our grandfather's lines have awakened it. We do not see it at once in the half-dark, but we feel it. First cool, then slowly warm, as if it is listening to our breath. And then it begins. Not as shock, not as a sudden tear in the world. More like a process that announces itself so softly we notice it only once it is already underway. The cube in our hand becomes evenly warm, and from that warmth, a fine mist emerges. Barely visible at first, like haze in cool air. It does not spread to overwhelm. It surrounds us, gently. It closes around us like a cloak made of stillness. It settles over our shoulders. It takes the edges out of the room. It muffles the world. Not brutally, softly, as if someone has laid fabric over the sounds. Everyday life does not vanish. It steps back. The lamp becomes a distant point. The room loses its sharpness. And as the mist thickens, something happens inside us. Something hard to describe, and yet instantly understandable. What was only read a moment ago is now projected within, not as loose images, but as a door opening. We do not travel away. We step in. We close our eyes, not from fear, from trust. First, there is coolness on our skin, not unpleasant, clear, pure, as if it knows no heaters, no stale air. Then we hear a deep, steady sound. No bang, no calling. More a calm pressure, a wide breath that does not belong to us and yet carries everything. We breathe in, and the air tastes different. A whisper of salt, very fine, something mineral, as if standing near wet stone. And beneath it, a purity we rarely find above, because above, so much floats in the air that is not air. We open our eyes. Above us arches a dome. Transparent, yes, but not reflective, not cold. The material scatters the light as if made to keep the gaze soft. Behind it, water, wide, deep, and yet not dark, but that living blue that does not come from sun. It comes from depth itself. Within it drift points of light, slow, unhurried, as if stars have decided to live in the sea. We stand on a surface that is firm and yet yields, barely, not as resistance, as accompaniment, as if it receives our step and gives it back. Atlantis. And the first thing we notice is not size, not technology, not strangeness. It is the absence of hurry. Down here, there is no urge to rush, no inner compulsion to collect impressions quickly and run on. Our gaze is allowed to linger. Every moment is allowed to fade out. It is as if Atlantis has taken time's sharp edge and turned it into something soft, something that adjusts to our breath. Nearby, people move. They wear simple garments that look soft in the moist light. Their faces are open, and yet their eyes are awake. When they notice us, the mood shifts, not threatening, but tense, like a quiet reflex, questioning faces, as if thinking, how can this be? A stranger here. It is more an exchange of looks than a spoken conversation. We hear no words we can grasp, only a low murmur, a slight retreat, a caution born of habit. We stand still. We make no quick movement. We do not lift the cube like an ID. We simply hold it, the way you hold something that belongs to you. Then someone steps closer, not with splendor, not with guards, not with a gesture meant to demonstrate power, but with that calm self-evidence you feel in cities when someone carries responsibility without turning it into theater. He feels less like a ruler and more like a mayor, a keeper of the everyday, a person who does not enforce order. He embodies it. He looks at us. Then his gaze drops to the cube, and his expression changes, as if he has seen a puzzle piece he recognizes and yet did not expect to see again. He smiles, clearly surprised and honestly pleased. Welcome. And we understand him fully, as if there were no language barrier at all, as if the cube has quietly wiped away an invisible border that stood between us and this world a moment ago. The man inclines his head, not in submission, as a natural gesture of courtesy that seems never to have gone out of time here. Welcome to Atlantis. My name is Aaron. Aaron, son of the great Atlan. A name that sounds like history, and yet he carries it without pose, as if it is simply his name. Aaron lifts his hand in a calming motion, and the tension in those around us loosens slightly, as if a knot has been eased. "You are from above," he says. No accusation, more a simple statement, like saying, "You come from another landscape." We nod. We begin to explain. The book, our grandfather, the cube, the journeys we barely understand ourselves, the way you do not find places, you allow yourself to be found. And as we speak, the very thing we secretly hoped for happens. Aaron does not only listen. He follows our words with an attention that reaches deeper than understanding. He notices pauses, unspoken questions, thoughts still forming, and before we fully say them, he takes them up, as if they lie openly between us, like another page in the book. "You are wondering," he says calmly, "how this is possible." We pause, not only surprised, but because it is rare to feel so precisely seen. He did not guess. He recognized. How a city like this, Aaron continues, can escape the grasp of the surface. How we can exist and yet be unfindable, unreachable, unenterable to those who would try to seek us. He smiles briefly, as if the answer is so simple it barely needs explaining. Magic. And before the word can awaken wrong images in us, he adds, not the magic that is told above as spectacle. No sparks, no theatrical lightning, but a magic that protects. He gestures upward, toward the water over the dome, a gift of the sea, from what you would call a sea god, a protection that does not build walls. It guides perception. The surface cannot find us because it sees only what it is used to seeing. Not because we despise the world above, he says gently, but because we understood early what happens there. The constant pushing, the chasing after more, faster, bigger, and that strange inability to be full, to be satisfied, to rest in what is already here. His voice remains calm. We did not want to be infected by it, he says simply. And so we separated, not out of hostility, but out of longing for another rhythm. Then he turns slightly, as if opening the path for us. Come, you are a guest, and if you are a guest, you should know Atlantis. We walk with him. Atlantis does not unfold like an attraction. It unfolds like a city that is lived in order, in calm, in a beauty that does not shout. Corridors wind as if grown, not built. Walls are smooth, and within them are fine structures like coral, only without roughness, more like a memory of coral. In some places, transparent channels run along the walls, and inside them flows a clear current, not water, more a quiet, luminous substance, as if it carries light itself. We stop, and Aaron speaks before we can ask. That is our energy source. He leads us into a hall that does not impress through size, but through clarity. Lines in the walls move slowly, as if following an inner rhythm. We do not gain energy by burning, he explains, not by consuming. We gather. He lifts his gaze, as if remembering the far away above through the domes. Sunlight is broken by the water, filtered, focused. What is fleeting above is gently caught down here, stored in materials that hold it without devouring it. So there is light, warmth, movement, without haste, without destruction. He smiles, almost apologetic. Everything here is designed not to exhaust. We walk on. We reach a place like a market, but without shouting, without crowding. Bowls on tables, food that looks different than above, and yet not foreign in a way that repels. Foreign in the way new possibilities feel foreign. Aaron offers us a flatbread, dark green, almost like pressed seaweed, and yet soft. Algae bread. We bite, and the taste is so clear, so distinct, that we chew more slowly without meaning to, as if the mouth needs time to truly understand this mix of plant, mineral, mildness. It is as if the sea resonates in it, without it being salty. Aaron watches us. Above, he says, you often eat without truly tasting. Down here, you taste, or you lose the sense of things. He hands us a drink. Cool, clear. It tastes as if water has been cleansed so completely, it does not only ease thirst, it eases unrest. We breathe out, and the chest grows wide. We enter a hall where people sit, not over loud games, but in quiet, thoughtful exchange. On a table lies a board that reminds us of chess, but the pieces are different. Shapes like shells, currents, spiral stones. It does not feel like a battle for victory, more like a study of patterns. Aaron notices our gaze. Atlantis, he says, devotes itself to knowledge, not proudly, simply, as if it were a craft. We practice daily, he adds, to sharpen the mind, not to stand above others, but because clarity creates peace. He continues, and it sounds like he is quietly explaining why everyone here seems so awake, so calm, so hard to shake. We learn early to order thoughts, not to suppress them, to see them, and then let them pass. Even our small rituals are different, Aaron says. For example, in the evenings, he continues, we do not tell our children bedtime stories. We look at him. He smiles. Not because we look down on stories, he explains, but because we train the mind. Before it rests, they receive riddles, gentle riddles, riddles that loosen the day instead of tying it tight. He sees our questioning look, and before we ask, he offers examples, like small, calm stones you can turn in your hand. What belongs to you, but is used more often by others than by you. We think for a moment. Your name, Aaron says softly. Then a second. I speak without a mouth. I hear without ears. I have no body, and yet I live. What am I? We feel at once how deeply this question points inward. A thought, Aaron says. And the word down here does not feel abstract. It feels real. And a third, like a lullaby shaped as a riddle. What grows when you share it and becomes heavy when you hold it tight? We breathe in. Stillness, we answer. Aaron nods. Yes, stillness. And sometimes joy, too. He does not leave the riddles standing like tests. He leaves them like something you can carry without weight. So they learn, he says, to become quiet and not chaotic. As we continue walking, a thought rises in us, very softly. Are we the first to visit Atlantis? Aaron answers before we speak it. No, he says calmly. You are not the first person from the surface. He pauses, as if calling up a memory that does not hurt, only feels gentle. There was a traveler, he adds, many years ago. And then, after a small, tender smile, and by your thoughts, it could indeed have been your grandfather. Something warms inside us, not sentimentality, closeness. Aaron sees it. He carried the same object, he says, looking at the cube. And he held that book, as if he wanted to capture the impressions while they were still fresh. We think of the pages, the marker, the calm handwriting. Aaron nods, as if he is not listening in, only noticing the way you notice weather. You call them stories, he says, but for him, it was more. And he sets the word down carefully. A travel book, a traveler's diary. Not to entertain you, he adds, but to leave you pathways. We hold the book tighter, and suddenly it no longer feels like a volume, but like a ring of keys. At the same time, a quiet wonder rises in us. How old is Aaron? Not tourist curious. More amazed that he speaks of our grandfather as if he met him yesterday. Aaron smiles. 187. And when he sees our reaction, he makes no secret of it, but also no spectacle. Down here, life is different, he explains. Less fear, less noise, less constant must. He begins to tell us about their nourishment, mostly plant-based, from algae, herbs, gardens the sea allows, about peacefulness, not as an ideal, as a consequence. When you are not constantly driven, you fight less against everyday life. And above all, Aaron says, we practice gratitude, not as a sermon, as a craft, as something you truly practice daily, quietly, reliably. Time passes without us counting it. We see rooms of knowledge, archives where not only books rest, but tablets, crystals, membranes that store light like memory. We see learning not in strict rows, but in calm circles. We see people who do not produce. They understand. And as we walk, we notice our body becoming heavy in a new way, not exhausted, pleasant, like after a long bath, like after a day that did not grind us down, but gathered us. And yet one question remains inside us, quiet, persistent. How can one live so long? How does one resist time? Aaron looks at us and smiles. You are missing the last link. To understand, he does not make it mysterious. It is not one single reason, he explains. Not nourishment alone, not knowledge alone, not seclusion alone. He stops, and then he says, simply, it is sleep. We look at him. He smiles kindly, as if showing us something that does not need to be hidden, because it cannot be taken away. You want to know how to live long, he says. Then I will show you what protects us most. No oath, only an invitation. Come, he says. I will bring you to a room of rest. The further we follow him, the softer the light becomes. The sounds grow more muted. The corridors feel smoother, as if everything here was built not to disturb. At last, a door opens, and we step inside. It is a sleeping room. Simple, beautiful, but not grand. In the center lies a resting surface, whose calm you can almost see. No bed frame like above, no mattress, but something that resembles water, clearly held within a frame that feels warm like polished stone. A waterbed, but not wobbly, not playful, more like a quiet, supporting surface, as if the sea has been tamed without losing its gentleness. The surface is covered in a fabric that feels like silk, only heavier, softer, as if silk were mixed with air. Aaron places his hand on it. It carries you, he says, just as the sea carries us. We lie down. Slowly, the fabric yields, and then the water beneath receives us, not rocking, not restless, but organizing, as if it arranges our shoulders, relieves the back, releases pressure we have long accepted as normal above. Above us arches a smaller dome. Through it, we can see out into the deep, dark blue of the depths. Points of light drift past, slow, serene, as if there are beings down here who know nothing of haste. Aaron stands for a moment. Your grandfather, he says softly, lay here too. We breathe out. He smiled, Aaron adds, like someone who finds something again, something he missed for a long time, without ever being able to name it. His gaze falls to the cube. The cube, he says, is not a tool to escape. It is a tool to return. We close our eyes, not because we want to go away, because we want to stay. In this state, the water carries us. The fabric is warm. The air is clear. And inside us, there is no urge anymore to complete something. No inner running. Only this quiet, grateful arrival. We still sense the cube. Warm, content, close. And somewhere, very gently, like a hand that does not press, only calms, sleep sits down beside us. Not abruptly, not as a break, more as a continuation, as if our grandfather's story does not end. It continues within us as we grow quiet. We breathe out, and with that exhale, the last trace of the surface releases. The last trace of speed. The last trace of productivity. We fall asleep, carried by water, carried by depth, carried by Atlantis.